Hey, welcome to the Tuesday Talk Movies podcast. I'm Drew.
I'm Cam.
And if you are very obsessed with Facebook, you probably would like this episode because we are talking about the biopic from 2010, The Social Network. Cam, who stars in this movie? Because I know it is a star-studded cast.
Yes, it stars Jesse Eisenberg, Andrew Garfield, Aaron Sorkin, Justin Timberlake, Armie Hammer, Dakota Johnson, Rooney Mara, Rashida Jones, Brenda Songs, Josh Pence. I think that's
all the big ones.
Yeah.
Who's the guy? I know this is completely top random, but who's like the Indian dude who was with the Winklevosses? He's above. He's like far right, second row.
Oh, Max Mingo?
Yeah, I've seen him in a lot of stuff, but yeah, sorry, that was just, I didn't know who he was because I was thinking of him and I whatever. But so the movie basically tells a story about the creation of Facebook, and it shows Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg, which Mark Zuckerberg's kind of just a weird little alien, isn't he?
Little freak.
Yeah, and basically how, I guess I'll just say by like when I was watching this movie, I kind of knew to take everything with a grain of salt because it's based off a book called The Accidental Billionaires, which I don't know if it's for sure, but I think like it kind of portrays Mark Zuckerberg more as like a villain, and this movie definitely goes right into that. But for overall opinions, I thought the movie, like it was listed, it got Oscars. It didn't get Best Picture, but it was nominated. It was labeled the best movie of 2010, and I completely agree. I think it was, David Fincher directed it, and so I feel like it's, God, I don't know how to describe it. It just feels so, like, engaging, if that makes sense. Like, it's a movie, like, through the dialogue, through the visuals, through the acting, you just, like, watching it. Like, I guess I could describe this best as, like, if this came on TV, you would keep watching.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it, too. I can't say it's the best of 2010. I can't think of anything else that came out in 2010.
Inception. That came out in 2010.
You're still picking this over?
I would, of course, pick this over Inception.
Really?
I would.
I think, I don't know. I can't say that. I'm saying it right now. I don't know. But, yeah, it was really good. I think...
And sorry, I'll only say that because I think Inception, and it's kind of like the thing with Christopher Nolan, is that this movie simplifies complex terminology where Inception does not.
Yeah, and like overdoes everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, actually.
Well, is that... Okay, no, it's okay. I can just...
No, but I think what really makes it so likable is because how the pace is. Like, you get into it and it just immediately gets into him creating stuff, and then the opening scene is him breaking up with his girlfriend breaking up with him, or Erica Albright. Yeah, that was her. Rooney Mara's character.
Who is a real person.
Yeah. What?
Well, I don't know if it's a real person, but that like
scenario didn't happen.
Yeah, that relationship didn't actually occur.
Oh,
and that's like one of the most, because that's kind of like one of the bigger inaccuracies is that like he made Facebook as a result of him getting broken up with.
Okay.
When in reality, like, I think in real life he already had a girlfriend during the creation of it, and it was mostly just kind of like wanting to do it, not like out of spite.
Okay.
So
well,
but I agree with you about the I agree with you about the pacing.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to just kind of like slam dunk on you there, but
I thought I had one. But it's going into that and the pacing, and it doesn't feel, and it's not fast, but it's consistent. Like, it's not too much at one point, and it's progressing at a very decent rate, and it never slows down. As much dialogue as there is, it always feels like there's something happening.
Yeah.
Just looking forward to seeing I think it's the anticipation of how big it's gonna get.
Yeah, it's hard to describe because it's like when I think about like what made the movie so good, it's kind of like bland to be like, oh, the acting's good, but and when you think about it, I feel like, and I don't know if you agree, but when someone says like, oh, is The Social Network good? I go, the only thing I can say is, yeah, it's good. Like, I can't be like, oh, the visuals are crazy, because they're not. Oh, like the story is complex. It's really not. No. The acting's really good, but it's just a good movie.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because I want to like articulate why it's such a good movie, and I will like progressively, but like if you were like saying a blank statement to someone like you should watch this, why should I watch it? I kind of would be stumped because I'm just like, well,
acting. I think all you can say is the acting.
Yeah.
And
the dialogue. I mean,
yeah. I guess the character relationships.
That's true.
I think that's the main thing. But like, you talk to your average movie watcher, you're not gonna care about the character relationship dynamics.
Yeah, I think, and like I said earlier about how like it simplifies things. Like there's that scene where they're watching like a group of hackers like take shots and then try to see who will work with Facebook, and that's a good example of what I was talking about because Mark Zuckerberg's talking about like all these like hacking terminologies, and then you have Andrew Garfield's character who like says they're hacking, and he goes, yes, they're hacking. So it's like you say all this stuff, but then it like simplifies it for you. So if you got lost in the sauce, you're like, oh, okay, I can at least.
He's here to dumb it down for me.
Yeah, and I think with Jesse Eisenberg playing him the way he's playing him, I think that's kind of the dynamic between them. It's kind of like he says all this stuff, and then Andrew Garfield's there to kind of be like us, to kind of just be like this kind of cool, at a fault, being too nice of a guy, because he kind of funds Mark Zuckerberg's entire project, and then he gets completely screwed by the end of it.
Yeah. I guess we can jump into that. What are your thoughts on? What are your thoughts on the two main characters?
Well, let's start. Yeah, let's start with just the acting and just
Okay.
You can go first.
Man,
I'll throw it back to you. No, I'll throw it back to you. Yeah, that's your turn.
it's Jesse. I feel like Jesse Eisenberg plays the same kind of smart aleck the whole like every movie, or just someone that feels like he knows more than everyone else. Like in Now You See Me, Now You See Me Too, this Vivarium. He's just kind of
just a nerd.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, that's true. I guess because he was in Zombieland and he was just a nerd. But what I think this one's a little more interesting is that like he's a nerd that is like being a villain, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like you get kind of a weird dynamic with him.
Yeah.
He's kind of he's like a Batman villain in a way at some points.
It's weird because, like you said, he's a villain, but he's he's in charge of the whole process. So how bad can he be? Because it's mainly his project. Well, that's the whole debate that's the whole debate in the movie, like who actually takes ownership for this, because the Winklevoss, those are the people that were trying to get him involved in the project originally, just for context, and that's what they were suing him over. So
yeah, and with their dynamic, I think it's really, which by the way, Andrew Garfield got snubbed for an Oscar nomination, I think, for Best Supporting Actor, I would say.
What?
Well, he wasn't nominated at all. And I think in 2011
supporting Oscars.
I don't know who won, but I think that I would say his performance is like kind of a lot better than Jesse Eisenberg's, just because I feel like he just has a lot more going on. He has to portray like kind of the like.
There's so much to like. He goes through so much.
Yeah,
that's what. And Jesse Eisenberg, he's just on top of the world.
Because it's kind of one of those things where it's like Jesse Eisenberg can't talk. He just plays him as kind of like a straight, like kind of a douchebag, kind of guy.
Yeah.
And like Andrew Garfield's kind of like I don't know. He's trying to like make his father like approve of him. He's like funding the project. He's just an overall nice guy. He like is also smart and he's good at business. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as Justin Timberlake's character Sean Parker comes in, you can just tell that he like has like that animosity towards him, because he can kind of sense that he's like not good for the company.
Yeah.
And then that scene, the scene of the movie.
Oh, when he comes in the office.
Yeah. that's like enough right there to, that's enough.
That's the part where I hated.
Who won? Sorry.
Christian Bale for The Fighter. I'm not too mad. I don't know. I feel like Andrew Garfield had more range.
That might have been a legacy Oscar, honestly.
Think so?
Probably. I mean,
the other people, they weren't that.
But not even nominated? Come on.
Yeah, because The Town, Jeremy Renner, like, I don't even know what Winter's Bone is. The kids are all right. Mark Ruffalo, I'm sure he did well. Mark Ruffalo. And Geoffrey Rush in The King's Speech. I haven't seen that.
Maybe.
But I don't know. Like you said, he should have got a nomination, if anything.
At least.
But anywho, what? They were gonna give James Franco an Oscar for 127 Hours?
I think so. Yeah.
Why? I mean, he's just in the same spot. Anyway, what was I talking about?
About Andrew Garfield?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I think he had more to give, because it's such a range of emotions that, he's in the uplifting and kind of like expecting this to blow up and just being a friend.
Supportive, yeah.
Yeah. I think that, I've clearly was lost for the word. At the beginning, supportive at the beginning, it's like, let's get this together, just doing it with his friend and, throwing some money because he had it. But then it just flips over once Justin Timberlake's character comes
Sean Parker.
Yeah. And I know I said it last time, but this is the second time where I've seen a character who I can say I really hate. Yeah. I hate Justin Timberlake's character, especially at the end. Like, he's such a know-it-all.
What? That means he does a good job. He did a good job, though.
He did, and I don't even feel this way typically, but I'm just seeing Andrew Garfield talk to him, that he's just so lost for a whole 0.03%. He had like 50 to what?
Oh, that scene. I mean, that scene alone, like, just God, I'm trying to describe it. It's like the way the music kicks in when he says that, because like that, just the way that, like, that's just a huge moment because it's like 0.03%. Like that's like basically not, it's nothing to them.
Yeah.
But to me, like I'd be happy with 0.0 because that's like probably $1
million.
Yeah. And I will say, like, Sean Parker, Eduardo Saverin, they're obviously like billionaires, I think now still.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to kind of like see, like, as someone who's obviously not rich, like kind of look at that and be like, to them, I don't know how to describe it. Like to us, it's like, oh, what they're getting, I would get in a heartbeat. But to them, it's like so, because Facebook is such a monumentally cultural, like, big thing.
Yeah.
That like, it's like so much to get like just 1 more % of that company because it's such a huge thing. And I'm not a business major, so half the half the stuff they talked about just completely went over my head. In terms of like percentages and stocks and everything, and shares. I'm just kind of like,
yeah, I hate that part.
And like I said, it goes back to them like simplify. I just slapped my leg really like this 0.03%. Like they could have went on like, oh, the shares are here. You made my shares here, but they like simplify it and be like, how much do theirs dilute to? Nothing. How much is yours? 0.03%. And it's like, considering he had 30% of the company, and he had 70%, like that's like nothing in the grand scheme of things.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
he is still a billionaire though. He's
because of the lawsuit he got.
Yeah, it never said how much he made at the end, did it? He said it was never disclosed.
Oh, it wasn't disclosed. Yeah,
but his net worth is $28.3 billion as of this year.
It's loosely told on the internet. I've heard 2% to 5% of the company. That's what I've heard. But that's such a huge jump in terms of Facebook because it's such a big company.
In 2012, he owned $53 million. 53 million Facebook shares valued at approximately $2 billion at the time. $2 billion at the time.
At the time, now that's like
$2 billion in 2012. That's like
that's probably $9 billion now. Man, that's a loose number. I don't know if that's true, but that's just kind of what I was thinking. Now that we're on the topic of Justin Timberlake, I thought his performance was pretty good for what it's for. I mean, it's not like he needed to do a lot, but like, and I guess it's easy for him since he is kind of a celebrity.
Yeah,
it's kind of, and I don't know Justin Timberlake, but what I've heard, he's kind of a douchebag
in real life.
Sometimes I've heard that.
Oh,
so I feel like he does a pretty good job at just playing one in this movie.
He looks like one too. I hate that his lack of facial hair. Not saying I have a whole shed of hair, but like, I don't know. He just looks like he upsets you every time you walk into a room. And then when he comes in late at the beginning, when he at the dinner, and then Jesse Eisenberg's character, Mark. I don't know why I'm using their real names.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Zuckerberg is waiting for him and so anxious for him, and he comes in late and he just acting like he does know everyone. I don't know. I just didn't like that.
Yeah, because I think in that sense, like Mark Zuckerberg, played by Jesse Eisenberg, whatever, is so like enthralled with him because it's kind of like he's the model of what he wants to be.
Yeah.
Because he just wants to be like the guy that everybody knows when they come in and everything, but like it's him basically like not being able to because he's such like a nerd or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, that scene, like, and I've seen the movie before. Like, I knew the ending. I knew kind of how it played out and everything. But watching again, I just didn't realize how, like, you see the dominoes kind of folding as soon as Justin Timberlake's put in, like, the movie. Because immediately you can just sense that, like, he's, like, gearing Mark Zuckerberg away from Eduardo. And I think the scene that was, like, most, like, oh, my gosh, is when they go to California, but Eduardo stays and does an internship in New York to find advertisers. So they go to California, and he shows up and this was the scene I was watching with my girlfriend.
Oh.
Yeah. And
you went to Iowa?
I did go to Iowa. Which I loved going to Iowa, but I had to get up at 6 a.m. and I drove back, and this is off topic, but like it's a 3.5 hour drive. I don't think I was like conscious, like conscious to being like, oh, I'm in this town until I got to like Champaign.
You told me that the last time you
I was like, I just drive, and I'm just like, I'm going, and I look down, I'm like, wow, I was going really fast for a long time in this passing lane, and I've just been riding people in the passing. I was like, wow. But anywho,
we'll bleep out the state.
Exactly. It's a big state. But what was I gonna say? When he shows up at the doorstep in the pouring down rain, and he goes, Mark was supposed to pick me up an hour ago, and he comes in, and of course Sean Parker's the one who answers the door. And granted, he's in the house that Eduardo's paying for, like his family's paying for it, off a grant. And then like Mark Zuckerberg comes in, and they like talk, and he basically goes like, Like, if you don't come out here, you're gonna get left behind. And it's like, it made me so mad because, like, dude, he's funding you to do all this, and you're gonna basically say, like, hey, you're gonna get left behind like this. That's where I was like, oh my god, like, I just feel so bad for him. And I think the movie, because I saw an interview with the writer before this episode, research, wow. And he said, like, that he thought they did a pretty good job, or he did a pretty good job in the script, like, making the story, like, very, like, balanced in terms of, you know, like, they're not leaning so much on the Eduardo side saying that he's right. They're not leaning too hard on the Winklevoss saying they're right. They're keeping it pretty vague.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's true. I think you're definitely supposed to leave the movie hating Mark Zuckerberg and, like, being like, poor Eduardo. Like, the Winklevosses is a good example of that, because you don't really, it's kind of like hearsay when it comes to, like, the emails where, like, they wanted him to join in, but he just ghosted them.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that part, because they went and got the president involved, and then they went and got their lawyers and stuff, which I'm sure is, like, that's like the easy way for them to do things, to just pay their way through anything. But, like,
and they're like Olympian stuff, which also Armie Hammer playing twins, even though he's not a twin.
You told me that, yeah.
Yeah, and so they had to, like, digitally, like, shoot scenes, like, where they're together and stuff, which, I mean, that's cool. It looked cool. I wouldn't have guessed it. I thought it was really well done, but it's kind of like, God, why? Like, that's a lot of money just going for that alone. And these not minor characters, but it's like,
he's in there a decent amount.
Yeah. It's like, that's a lot to do with that. I don't know. I think with their dialogue, and I think, like, the dialogue to a certain extent feels too movie-esque. Sometimes feels like everything they say sometimes has a punchline. I don't know if that makes sense.
The Winklevoss?
Them, but, like, also just throughout the movie. And that's why I like it. I like that the dialogue is so, like, memorable in ways, but it's like the thing where it's like, what do you want to do? I want to hire the Sopranos to go beat the crap out of me. He's like, or the moments where he's like, I'm 6'4", 220, and there's two of me.
Yeah.
There's lines like that where it's like, it seems like we're in a movie. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm talking about, though, for a biopic?
Yeah, it takes you out for a minute, and then you realize, like, I know what you mean. Like, it takes you out for a second. Like, you're
a second, but the pacing's so good that I'm like, okay,
back on track.
I can accept the fact that this is just how people talk, because they're under the envelope of Harvard students, so they got to be clever.
It was 2003 too, so who knows how they were actually talking?
Yeah,
that's crazy, man. Like, the stuff that can come out of school. And I know that's just like just like a random thought, but for someone like him, something like that to be done at Harvard, like our age, we should have made something. We should have made something out of it.
Yeah, the progression of, like, when they started, and just, it's very, I think the thing with me that's so interesting, and I wish I would have been, like, old enough to, like, watch this when it first came out, because that's when Facebook was, like, actually like a new thing. And like, if this movie came out now, it'd be kind of like, okay, whatever,
it's too old.
Like, those little things, like his friend coming in and being like, hey, do you know if this girl's, like, single or if she's seeing anybody? And that gives him the idea to do the like, status of relationships. Just seeing kind of those bits and pieces, like, lead to those minor things that we just kind of, like, breeze over now.
Yeah,
is very interesting to see. That scene in particular, and just kind of, like, how they go from, like, rating girls to, like, making the profiles
campus wide thing.
Yeah, and then expanding from campus to campus, then expanding from country to country. And I laughed at the part where the Winklevosses, they're, like, rowing in the like, qualifying for the Olympics or something like that, and they're at a party, they lost the whatever, and he goes, yeah, my daughter, she's using this new thing called Facebook, and they're like Britain or the UK, and they're like, wait, what, like, it's expanded. And, like, I think that's after that they decided to sue him, which I don't know why they didn't sue him to begin with. I think they want to be gentlemen.
We should start doing that. We're men of Eastern Illinois.
We're men of Eastern. We don't sue people. We don't sue people.
We complain about it with our friends, and then we move on with our day.
Yeah, that's every day for me, honestly. But no, I think that it just felt like every character, like, with their chemistry with the other characters was just so fully realized and was so entertaining to watch. Like, it felt like you weren't, like, stopping in their actors acting with each other and then you're done. It felt like we were actually, like, stepping into them in their daily lives.
Yeah, it felt intrusive at times.
Yeah,
like when the arguments were happening. Oh man, I hated when after the big scene towards the end, and Jesse and Mark is like, yeah, you didn't have to go that hard on him. And then he kept saying, like, 3 times, like, yo, you did not have to go that hard on him. And I don't know, it's a realization, but it's realizing, like, yeah, they're still humans, but you already screwed them over this much, so what's It's the cost of this.
I think that scene in particular does a good job, and we'll get to like kind of the camera work and cinematography and color grading because that's also a huge thing.
Yeah, it's like,
But in that scene in particular, oh god, I feel so bad for Andrew Garfield's character because and I think visually the vibe is just already there because he comes in all dressed up and everybody's like casually like just walking around like sweatpants and everything, and you can just kind of tell he's like kind of like a fish out of water in his own business that he's a part of.
Yeah.
And when you realize it's like, oh, he's screwed, like you feel, because it's the wide shot outside of the glass thing.
Yeah, with the wind, and you can see their character.
You can see it's silent. He's just like you can just see like him go like, oh my god. He turns around, looks right at him, and that like just the moving shot of him like coming at him and everything, and the music too. Like that moment when he like goes to punch Sean Parker and he holds it has like a very like horror-esque like
Kind of, yeah.
It was really weird because because the director is known for like Seven and Fight Club and Zodiac.
Yeah, we talked about The Killer, man, and I was
The Killer, yeah.
I was telling someone about this, like, that was so disappointing. Like, he had all these great movies,
It's Netflix, bro.
and then The Killer came out.
Yeah, I just thought the music was like weirdly like eerie for a biopic about like Facebook. You know what I mean? Like it was just kind of like an eerie choice, which worked.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about Oppenheimer too. Everything comes back to Oppenheimer. Like that, they made that great. Can you hear the music song about a guy making a bomb?
Yeah,
Like, how'd you make that sound angelic? But
yeah, and visually, what do you think the movie had to offer in like color grading wise? Like visually, look.
yeah, it's one of those things. It's like it had the same kind of colors or color grading as Whiplash, and I think that really adds on to
Yellow.
Yeah, and I think that really adds on to like the sophistication of a movie because it's a serious topic, but you have this off-brand or like this unique, I guess, or like this abnormal color to go with this topic, and they mesh somewhat well together, and it's so weird. I don't know.
No, I'm trying to think in particular. Like the very first scene's like hard yellow.
Yeah, in a bar.
Yeah, in a bar, and I think that and those continue, and like it's not all like like it's very different, and I think it like when it's God, I'm scrambling to think of it, but when they're in the court system, it seems like a lot more green, a lot more kind of like palish green. But when they're in like flashbacks, it's a lot more warm.
What's this called? Social numbers.
But no, I think the color grading like helps it. It helps it while also not being like too intrusive. But it just kind of has that palish, darkish kind of like vibe to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Like a lot of scenes are like very dark looking, which I find just very interestingly color graded, I would say.
I wonder why you went with this instead of like a typical. Cause I feel like this could be a movie
for an old man to make,
Yeah,
because he wasn't young at the time.
And I feel like it could be made in this way, or it could be made in a highly sophisticated kind of the brightest or like the sharpest camera you could find, and the greatest lighting. And I don't know, it's weird that you went with it, but this was 2010 though, so a lot of these movies around this time can't have like some weird stuff going on. When the first Saw come out? That came out early 2000s.
2004, I believe.
Yeah, so not too far off, but I guess to add, I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy how Saw comes out in 2004 and this comes out only 6 years later. Seems like there's a bigger jump in terms of that. But no, I think I don't know. It feels like, because it's only like 2 hours.
Doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't drag. And I think that the only thing that I have about the movie that I wish they did that they didn't do is I wish that they would establish how much time is passing in the flashback scenes a little better.
Yeah.
So like say like 6 months later, just at the bottom corner, because we get like them in the court system like flash forward because they're like recounting all the stuff, but they look like they just stepped right off the first scene. You know what I mean? Like there's no like visible like aging, because granted it's only probably like 2 years after they created it, because it grew so quick. In 4 months they were already in different countries, like expanding it. So I just wish it would be like to get the scope of how fast this thing is growing, like just kind of show us that. I don't know. That's a good point. That's the only thing.
I kind of thought about that, not in depth, but I know there was a time where I was like, I wonder how
quickly this thing.
Yeah, and
because even on, because there's a line in there which actually is a cool like little, not Easter egg, but a little cool thing to put. They said like he's the biggest person on campus. That's including this like Pulitzer winners.
Yeah,
and then like an actor, and apparently the actress who was at school at that time was Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
and so he was like more popular than her because that's 2003, so she was coming off of Star Wars.
Man,
you know,
can I give you? Pretty good.
So yeah, he was more popular than
That was loud.
it was loud. Wow, more popular than Natalie Portman, which that's fantastic. Good for him.
Man,
Went right to his head, I guarantee.
I would for me if I'm bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, here, yeah,
Yeah.
If I was the most popular guy at Eastern, like being the most popular guy in like KFC. Like wow. But no, yeah, I think that the film was such a good. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, I think the acting all across the board, because it's primarily like the most dynamic is obviously Andrew Garfield, Jesse Eisenberg, and Justin Timberlake. That's like the biggest like dynamic throughout.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a really entertaining movie for a film that could be so boring if it wanted to be. It somehow makes The Social Network more entertaining than like half of the horror movies that we've seen
Yeah, I think
in our class.
I definitely choose this over anything we've ever seen in that class.
Do you think there was anything with the camera work that made it seem more paced well as well? I think it's the cinematography, like the camera work was like too much. Like it didn't like do anything crazy.
No, I think
Low key.
everything was kind of dependent on the light, or everything was
Everything was dependent on like the
lighting and
the lighting. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was nothing too outstanding with the camera work and stuff like that. I mean, no cool angles or shots, but for the most part, just acting and lighting.
I just know that one scene where they were rowing at the Olympic thing.
Mhm.
That looked a little CG. I don't know if you watched that.
Oh, in the water?
Yeah,
Or
like that.
inside when he came
When
in.
they're outside in the row, and I was like, that looks a little fake. But I mean, it's 2010. I mean, the CG. I mean, especially something like this where it's a biopic. Not a lot of movies going towards the. I mean, they're already trying to get the Winklevosses to be
Mhm.
like looking accurate.
I wonder why they did that.
I mean, that's a lot for Armie Hammer, because you have to like act one way and like act like you're talking to nobody. You know, like you have to like
Yeah.
reply to yourself.
meet eye lines and
Which
stuff.
I'm sure they had like a guy next to him acting so he could naturally like reply to him.
Mhm.
But it feels like the like dialogue between the twins themselves feels so natural and so like witty and cool. And I felt bad for them too, like because they seemed like nice guys in the movie, like
Yeah.
like they wanted to include him in on it, and they were trying to get a hold. They just kind of got screwed over as well. But then again, that's hearsay.
Yeah, so we never know how in depth or how bad it actually got. And like you said, this was
They're rich.
yeah, and like you said, it was based off that screenplay or that book.
Yeah.
So he probably made Mark Zuckerberg look as bad as possible.
Do you think there's any way you can come out of this movie not hating Mark Zuckerberg? I don't think there's any way.
I think if you're like him in real life, then you'll be like, oh, he's not that bad. It was his idea and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And coding, man, I coded a website when I was in 5th grade.
How'd that go? Did you write it on your little window like they did?
Man, I remember how difficult it was, and the website was so basic. I remember it was a website about Barack Obama, and it was so basic. It was black and red, and I don't know. Coding is difficult, and kudos to anyone that does it. Granted, it's been a very long time.
Taking shots.
Doing that drunk, oh my god! Yeah, and there's so much to remember.
When is like writing like math or like code on a dorm window gonna stop in movies? That it seems like such a trope.
When did I just watched?
Like you don't have time to get paper.
Yeah. Oh my god, what's the name of that movie? I think it wasn't The Theory of Everything. It was about the guy that got
A Perfect Mind or
yes.
Russell Crowe. I don't know. I feel like if I wrote a code that could make me trillions of dollars, I wouldn't be writing it on my dorm window
Yeah.
so everyone can see it. I'm like, okay. Well, so I don't know how they lived in that dorm. That dorm was so small.
Like, check out my dorm. I could barely walk in there.
I don't know. It's Harvard. I love how the movie just makes it like seem like if you're at Harvard, you are like the second coming of God. Like you, like you know, I don't know. Like all their dorms are so clean. They're so perfect. They're like, you know what I mean? It's
It's like a real apartment in college.
It's like my standards of being a college student have just been like just plummeted because I feel like I'm doing something right, and then I get to see this. I'm just like, I'm not doing good. at
Yeah.
all.
Dude, the campus. I don't know. Just looking at our campus compared to other schools' camp eyes. It's
At the beginning when he's running, I'm going, boy, he could have ran around our campus 5 times by the time the credits get done.
Dude, it's like you anywhere on this campus you can get from anywhere within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And he's running across, and it takes him 30. I
A
can
whole
only
credits, like the entire credits, which is like probably like 5 minutes.
yeah, because there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
a lot of names to get through and a lot of behind the scenes directors, whatever, dude. And I'm just looking like, man, he's just running into people up the stairs, and it just makes me look at our campus and be like, man, where did we go wrong?
My last thought would probably be like the ending, where it seems like he messages that girl from the beginning and keeps refreshing it. Do you think that
was his ex?
Yeah, his ex. Yeah. Did you think that was like? What did you think of that ending? And did you think that was like in a way, the film trying to make you somehow sympathize with him?
No, I think it's kind of like just
flat circle.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's kind of just to show like he made it, and now he's kind of like lonely because he lost his friend, his like only friend.
Yeah.
They make clear he's like, I was your only friend, and you like did this. Because Sean Parker, we didn't mention that, he gets in like legal trouble.
Yeah, he probably because he did cocaine or he got caught with drugs.
Yeah, so I'm assuming he got kicked out, but he still kept his shares because business. And he's sitting there refreshing the page after he follows his ex on Facebook, and just kind of like, which imagine being that girl and seeing like the owner of the Facebook, Facebook like messaging you, and like I think it just goes to show how like he's made it, and it's kind of like, oh, it's a fake because it didn't actually happen, but it's kind of like showing like how like lonely he is now that he's made it.
Yeah.
And I'd rather be Edward Saverin. You're getting money from Facebook without doing anything. And because like, when was the last time you heard Eduardo Saverin in the news? Like he's a trillionaire in hiding, basically. Like
that'd be amazing.
Or Mark Zuckerberg can't go anywhere without paparazzi.
He's weird though, isn't that? Aren't they saying he's a robot now?
He's a lizard person, I think.
Lizard, that's what it was.
Looks like it.
Yeah.
But I think that ending's cool. I think it feels kind of like we've hated him for like an hour and 50 minutes, and then we have that scene where he's like, oh, like she goes, you're not an a-hole, you're just trying to be, and I'm like, you are. From what the movie's depicting, you are like. It seems like to me, it seems like them trying to be like, oh, he's not that bad. Like at the last minute, it's kind of like, well, that doesn't really.
I think that was supposed to be kind of like a cinematic thing because like call back from the, what'd you You just said it. For reference it from the back, full circle moment from the beginning when he said, you don't, I don't know, she said that at the beginning, and then he said that at the end. So I think that was just for cinematic purpose.
That's true. I mean, a lot of things in this are cinematic purpose. I just didn't have time to research all of it because I know there's probably such. That's in every biopic. There's always going to be those minor inaccuracies. But I think that with something that's so. I guess I'll say this before we end the episode. I find it very interesting that they made this movie at 2010 because it's very seldom that biopics come out so fresh when something came. You know what I mean? Like the Steve Jobs movies came out like 20 years after not 20 years, but like,
it came out a while
after the invention. So I find it kind of crazy. Like, it's like if Instagram or it's like TikTok got created and like within the year of it being created, they made like a biopic of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of nuts. And that's, I think, why the inaccuracies get a lot more attention because like it was currently happening while the movie came out. So I feel like there's a lot more people looking for those. Like if it's like a Watergate movie and 20-year-old me from 2024 is not going to care so much about like Richard Nixon having,
janitor
a freckle on his freaking nose. Like I don't care. You know what I mean? I find that to be interesting, especially in 2010 because like, I don't know when Facebook was created, probably in 2003 is when
they like
pitched it, and I think it got so like it's I guess it still had some breathing room though.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna leave it.
Facebook to me, like in my head, Facebook started in 2010. I don't know why. Like I think this movie is one I thought Facebook started because like I never used it until I was like in middle school or whatever, and I was like whatever.
I only made a Facebook for working here.
Really?
I don't touch that.
But what would you give this movie out of 5 stars?
I think I'll give it a 4. 4.5.
Would you say this is one of those movies that you have to watch in your life at least once?
I think so. I think for the newer generation, might not because they probably don't care about Facebook. They probably still have that thing on that agenda that Facebook's for old people.
That's true.
Well, what are your thoughts on that? Is Facebook for old people?
Kinda. I don't use Facebook very much. I mean, the only time I know I use Facebook I have Facebook is when my mom mentions me in a post or something. So I think it is. I would definitely say this movie's like it's something you should watch at least once because of how fundamentally good it is as a movie, but also how culturally significant it is because like Mark Zuckerberg is still currently a very prominent business person in like technology and everything.
He just got Facebook, or he just got Instagram, didn't he?
Or did he get Instagram?
Oh, he didn't just get that. I think Facebook acquired Instagram and the meta thing and the goggles. So
Yeah, but I would give it probably a 4.5 out of 5. I think the only thing that keeps me from giving it a perfect score is kind of, I don't know, just kind of, I don't know. I think it's because I just don't feel like it. Frankly, Cam, I just don't feel like it. I know I'm going to be able to articulate it right when we turn the cameras off, but for now, I'm just going to give it a 4.5 because that's what my gut's telling me. By the way, the shirt says, ask me about my ninja disguise, and I have a ninja thing, like, right. So I'm not going to flash the camera. I have a ninja thing right there. So if you're reading my shirt, that's why. So, yes, that is, well, let's see. It's the 15th, Cam. Only 2 weeks left after this. So this is my third to last episode. So, yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it because there's very few left. I think we're talking about the bear next week. We're gonna argue about the bear next week.
Yeah, Drew's finished it. He asked me to do it this week, but I'm just not done. So
we'll argue about that.
I'll be done by the time next week comes around.
But yeah, we hope you enjoyed the episode over the social network. I'm Drew from Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. Went off the thing a little bit there.
Oh,
I got a little excited. It's my third to last episode.
I'm Cam. I got another year of this, so
you did.
Yeah,
you do.
I need to find someone to fill Drew's spot.
Exactly. Applications are out now, so we'll see you next week when we discuss the bear. Have a good time.
Bye.